So, now that I've mentioned the characters I think will make it in the last video, I'm going to end this series by talking about the characters that I personally want in the game. So, rules to this list are that I'm limiting it to 5 third-party characters. There's no limit on how many characters per series. So you will be seeing characters, at least 2 or so, from a particular series. And yeah, that's about it in terms of rules. Honorable mentions are Rex and Pyra, King K. Rool, Shantae, and Lynn, or Lindis, whichever you prefer. Why are they honorable mentions? Because I mentioned them in my last list where I predicted characters I think will most likely make it in. So to go over them again would be meh. So here are the top 15 characters that are my personal picks. Always remember that this is my opinion, and feel free to leave the characters you want below in the comments, not who you think will make it. So, you know, people who didn't follow that in the comments the last time. Whatever. Doesn't matter. My way of picking this list is characters I think that have a good chance, well, not have a good chance of making it in, but are reasonable in terms of making it, with maybe one exception. I'll be going over how I think these characters can make it in, what their possible moveset or gimmick would be, and all that stuff. So, without further ado, let's commence. So, at number 15, I mentioned that this list is of characters I think are reasonable to make it into Smash Brothers, with like one exception. This is the one exception, and I do have a way of how this character can work. Ridley from the Metroid series. Now, before everybody tells me the same thing that they've told other people who want Ridley in Smash Brothers, just know that I am actually on the side where I think Ridley is too big for Smash Brothers. I think he's too big, and there is no way to make an iteration of him that could be scaled down or have an excuse for Smash Brothers specifically where he can be scaled down. I don't think that's possible. But I'm talking about past iterations. I'm looking towards the future. And this is how I think Ridley can make it into Smash Brothers. There is one game that we have yet to see at the time of this recording to where it could give Ridley potential to make it in. Because we have no idea what Metroid Prime 4 has in store. So first off, I want to stay on the record that I know next to nothing about the Metroid Prime series. I have the trilogy, but I have yet to complete it. I barely even played 1. But I do know that Meta Ridley has been in Prime 1 and Prime 3, and it has an Omega Ridley form of some sort in Prime 3. And pretty much every other incarnation of Ridley in the Metroid games, he's always been incredibly big, if not bigger, as the games progress. However, just hear me out on this theory. What if in Metroid Prime 4 he returns and this iteration of Ridley is much shorter? Like, let's say that they make the character smaller, or have like the space pirates become these human-sized clones of Ridley or something like that. Even if it's not that, what if he just had some sort of redesign that ended up making him much smaller? You know, a smaller target to make it much more harder for Samus to combat. That being said, I don't know what type of redesign they would go with and how much of a difference it would be from his original dragon design. So, not taking I mean, not going that much into that detail, let's say that he's just a miniature dragon in Prime 4, assuming he comes back at all. The moveset I would give him would be based off of, his past games, like having fireball projectiles and even being able to charge it for a more explosive single shot like his Other M incarnation, or kind of like how he does it in the Pyrosphere stage. He can use his tail spear as a type of command grab, or just a long-ranged melee attack. In the air, he can have like a down special, like a specific down special in the air where he can grab the opponent, swoop down, and either just sweep them, or that could also act as its own type of grab, and he can skid the opponent along the stage before raising back up. It could also act as a bounce of sorts if he's in the air and he hits somebody like under him or something like that, diagonally under, a little bit like Bayonetta's dive kick in a sense. He could also have a flight recovery for his up special, but it would be limited, or it could be like a powerful air dash tackle like when he appears in the Pyrosphere. And then for his final smash, I was thinking of the Meta Ridley transformation that he gets in the Pyrosphere, like when he stabs the stage and he turns like all metallic or whatever. I was thinking something like that, or if they go with the original theory that I had for him, where he becomes smaller, he just grows. A little bit like Giga Bowser. He gets super armor, he has an indefinite ability to fly, at least until the Smash Ball runs out. Something like that. But that's my only theory as to how, or that's my only reasoning as to why I think Ridley can make it in Smash Brothers. I would like to see this purple dragon make it in, because we need more villains. But that being said, if they don't do that, then he can't make it in. He just can't. And that's all I'm going to leave it at. At number 14, I have Azura from Fire Emblem Fates. The only reason why I have Azura on here, aside from wanting her, is she's actually one of the characters I did put in the Smash ballot for. I think I may have done one for Corrin, but I don't remember. It was such a long time ago. But I'm pretty sure I put Azura in. But that was before I knew what her character was, which, to be fair, is not a very interesting character in my opinion. But I still wouldn't mind having her in. One, she is a main character for Fates, much like Corrin, as main character. Well, that's irrelevant. The thing is, let's put in a theory that Corrin doesn't make it in, but they put Azura in. I feel that she can have some moves, like the Dragon Shot, be carried over for her. I know that she doesn't turn into a dragon like Corrin and doesn't really have any of the powers that he does, but she does have some control of water. So I'm just like kind of thinking of what they could do in terms of a more unique moveset, and give her the ability to utilize that water that she likes to summon when she's dancing and singing. That being said, the other thing is that it would be nice to have a Fire Emblem character that can utilize a weapon that's not a sword, because she carries around the Blessed Lance, at least in her artwork. But she can use any type of lance weapon. Even a Naginata, I think that's how you call it. But she can have long range. Her neutral special could be singing and giving like certain buffs to herself. Or she, like I said, she could like sing and use that water projectile that I was mentioning before, carrying it over from Corrin should she not make it back. And then like other attacks that utilize the water element that she wields. Well, she doesn't really wield it, but you know, they can give her these water effects to her moves, and although they're not very strong, because of the water being something that pushes the opponent, I was thinking that it could increase the launching capabilities. So think of it like Shulk's Smash Art, where he gets increased launch, although I don't think his moves are any more stronger than Buster Art's. I don't know how that works, but I'm just kind of improvising with her. And then for her final smash, it can be the performing arts thing that she did in chapter 14. I think at least in chapter 14 of Conquest. But basically one of her dances where she ended up submerging half of the stadium in water. I can't show a clip right now, but you can look up chapter 14, I believe, of Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, and you'll see what I mean. If not, just look up Groans of Increasing Discomfort. But I was thinking it could be a full screen final smash. She sings Lost in Thoughts All Alone, and I guess anybody within the range or like a certain range would be paralyzed and dealt like this huge amount of damage. Think of it like Peach's final smash, where everybody goes to sleep, but the closer you are to her, the more the sleep affects you. I know that she's not the most welcomed character in Fire Emblem, and I think other characters people would want from Fates, but I think that she would have a decent chance of making it. I don't know. Anyways, moving on to number 13. This is the other pick that's a little bit unreasonable, but I have my reasons as to why I put him here. Because he has been in a fighting game before, but he's not a fighter. Number 13, Phoenix Wright from the Ace Attorney series. As the title of his series suggests, and like I said before, he is not a fighter. He is an attorney. A criminal defense attorney. So, the fighting game that I mentioned before that he was featured in was Marvel vs. Capcom 3, specifically Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And because of this, and I mean, okay, so first off, yeah, he was featured in that game. Number 2, pretty much all of his games have been on Nintendo. He's always had a home on the portable side of things. He's never really been on a home console, again, with the exception of Ultimate Marvel. And if he has been on a home console game, I don't know about it. I just know that he's mainly made his home with Nintendo, despite him being a Capcom character. But he is a very quirky character, and for him being in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I've actually idealized his moveset to be based on that game. Just like how they put the Mega Upper for Mega Man in this game, which was originally from the Marvel vs. Capcom series. So, his moveset, in my opinion, would go that he would have 3 different forms or modes: investigation, trial, and turnabout modes. The investigation mode, where he can search for evidence. He can summon his spirit medium assistant Maya to hold a barrier in front of him, which would block attacks. Depending on how severe the attack is, though, she could be knocked away. A little bit how the Phantom Guardian for Zelda is. He could have a special of evidence toss, where bad evidence can be tossed at the opponent as just a weak projectile. And then as for his recovery, and this goes for all different modes for him, would be like some sort of assistance from Maya, where she could like give him some sort of extra jump like a Yoshi. I don't know. I didn't really think that far ahead in terms of recovery. I know he can double jump because of Marvel vs. Capcom, but that's the most I know. But let's say once he finds, I guess, 3 pieces of evidence, which can be a HUD, kind of like Little Mac's KO meter or any of the stocks. It could be around there. He would have the 3 pieces of evidence shown above his icon. Let's say he then switches over to trial mode, where then those pieces of evidence become submittable in order and then repeat upon using them, but their usage would be just like in Marvel vs. Capcom, where he summons these specific projectile attacks, where it could be a spread shot of 3, it could be 2 shots that he lingers into the air that home in on the opponent after about a second or 2. It could be a straight beam that has a certain range, etc. For his recovery, it would be the same, just like in all his other modes. Same thing with the barrier. And then instead of the evidence toss, because he now has good evidence, it would turn into an objection, where it would be a slow special attack with a fairly decent range. But if he hits it, not only would it do a decent amount of damage, but it would also turn him into his turnabout mode, which would be a temporary buff to him, just like it is in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Which then he can summon the evidence projectiles much faster. His objection turns into the blue finger of death, which is, again, in Marvel vs. Capcom. Again, this is all based off his Marvel vs. Capcom moveset. He would still have the Maya barrier, but it wouldn't be as easily knockable. You couldn't launch her as easy as you would in the other modes. And then the assists that she gives would be much higher. Like, if it was at a certain height that she launched you, it would be higher. If there's any other ideas as to what they can use for a recovery for him, go ahead and let me know, because I have no idea. And then for the final smash, it would be his Ace. It would just be called Ace Attorney, which I think is what's called for his level 3 super in Marvel vs. Capcom. But basically, it's a full screen attack where he basically brings out these benches and then he convicts the opponent of some murder or something, and the and basically corners them, and then once they're convicted, they explode just like in Marvel vs. Capcom. Only the difference here would be when they explode, they get launched. The only thing that I have an issue with this final smash would be that I don't know how many people it would be able to hit. So what I would probably suggest is that it targets one person, but anybody near that person would get hit within the explosion, I guess. I understand that this is a very unreasonable character, but seeing as he was able to make it in a competitive fighting game, I don't see why this character can't make it into Smash. And like I said before, he's been on pretty much Nintendo since his first game and is still going pretty strong. So I don't see why he can't, you know, make a return of sorts. Or not a return, but his debut in Smash. I mean, you have the villager of all people, who's not a fighter, but he's just a villager. Although in this case, he's a mayor, but, you know, he's a mayor, and this is an attorney. I mean, why not? Anyways, moving on. At number 12, I'm pretty much done with the unreasonable characters. At least I believe so. I have the list here, but I'll go over it later. Or I'll keep going over it. At number 12, I have Dark Samus from the Metroid Prime series. Seeing as Dark Samus made it into Smash 4 as an assist trophy, there is a good chance that she can make it in as her own character as well. And the thing is that, again, I have not played a lot of Metroid Prime. I just kind of glanced through a couple of things so that I can get some movesets determined. And Dark Samus is one of those cases where I had to look up quite a few things. And what I found, she's pretty different from Samus. Or at the very least, in concept, if she were to be a Smash Brothers character, I think she would have enough to make herself unique. If her assist trophy isn't enough to convince people. First off, I love her, pretty much her element, even though I don't think it would be considered an element, is Phazon. She would have a whole bunch of Phazon based attacks. She could use the spike pillars that she uses in this game as like a down smash of sorts, or a down special. She could use those Phazon shots like from her assist trophy as a smash attack, just like the Mii Gunner. She can do an energy field for damaging foes close by and possibly reflecting projectiles like Nehru's Love. I believe she had this attack in Metroid Prime 2. Well, the spikes came from Prime 3. She could have Phazon homing shots just like in her assist trophy for a standard. She can levitate just like Mewtwo. And for a final smash, she could have either a transformation from like the final boss from Metroid Prime 3, because I think she merges with it. Or she could have, I think they're called echo copies or something. But she can make copies of herself. And it could be used in a similar fashion to Pit's old Final Smash, where she makes all these copies and then they start swarming the field, attacking all the other combatants. So, I mean, just from that example alone, I think she's more than enough to differentiate herself from Samus and become a type of pseudo-clone. The only thing I would hope is that she's a little faster than Samus and her moves don't feel as awkward, because I feel that Samus's moves can be awkward. But Dark Samus, I think, could remedy a few things, and if Ridley's not making it in, then let's have Dark Samus as the villain / other Metroid character. I would put on one of the other hunters that, like, I think it's Silex that a lot of people like to put on. I don't know his name, but I never played Hunters and I never bothered looking into how much that character contributes to the series. At least with Dark Samus, she has 2 games under her belt that I know of, so, you know. And for a game that has quite a few clone characters, that includes pseudo-clones, I think Dark Samus would fit in pretty well. Again, just make her a pseudo, don't make her a full-blown clone like Dark Pit. Now, at number 11, this character is a bit iffy because there's a chance that Mega Man will make it in, but on the off chance he doesn't make it in, and they put in favor of this character, I wouldn't mind that either, and that being Mega Man X from the Mega Man X series. The reason why I say that Mega Man X could make it in, aside from just replacing Mega Man, is that, like, in terms of marketing, let's just go with marketing as a motive. The Mega Man X Legacy Collection is going to be coming out this summer, and what a better way to advertise than to have Mega Man X and Smash Brothers. That being said, a whole new Mega Man game, Mega Man 11, is coming out later this year. I believe in October, if I'm not mistaken. So Mega Man would actually have more reason, I think, to be put in Smash. I do hope he returns, because I do love the little guy, even though I don't use him as often as I probably should. But I also prefer Mega Man X, and that's a bit more of a bias on me, which I don't see as a con. Anyways, for a moveset, he could use the X-Buster Charge Shot, which could have a different attack depending on the length you keep the Buster charged, and you would also be able to store multiple charges and timing when you fired, like in X2 and X3 Armor Buster parts. What I mean by that is X has a really weird charge buster, and he always kind of has like a different one per game, but in X2 and X3 he was able to store different charge shots, also in X4, but that part doesn't really get used all that often. The thing is that he could hold at least 2 charge shots, and then depending on when you fired them, if you rapidly fire them, like in X3, you can combine the charge shot and make it into a spread shot. I was thinking they could do something like that for an attack like this in Smash Brothers. It would have tons of diversity because you could have a regular shot, a medium charge shot, a heavy charge shot, or a supercharged shot, or the ability to store several charges and shoot them either separately or together. Or you could use X's partner Zero's Z-Saber as another charged attack. There's so many possibilities, and that's just with the neutral special. For recovery, he could be using the Rising Fire technique, which would act a little bit like Ken Shoryuken. It would be a flaming uppercut, or he can just fire it up in the air if he's on the ground. He can have the Strike Chain as a grapple move, kind of like Link's Claw Shot, and can also use it to latch on to the edge of a stage. He can also have an air dash recovery if the Rising Fire doesn't work for it. For down special, he can use the Frost Tower attack, which creates a block of ice around him, not within him, and could either block projectiles or freeze people too close. Or they could do a counter attack with Darkhold, which would be like Witch Time, because Darkhold freezes time for a certain period, but it freezes everything pretty much. They could also go for Tri-Thunder, which is a barrier of electricity, and you can ram into people or whatever. For a forward special, you can use Soul Body, which can extend his attack range, creating this rainbow copy of him, which he can then use the Soul Body to mimic his moves. Think of it like Luma in Rosalina and Luma's, like when you send out a Luma and you're on the edge, but you have the Luma covering like some of the space near the screen as someone's recovering. It would be something like that, only you can't increase or decrease the range of the Soul Body. It's a set range. You could also try the aiming laser, where it summons a reticle that locks onto at least 3 foes and then fires a laser at them. Although, I don't know if they would probably use the same reticle from X4, so I was thinking of just having like an automatic reticle, kind of like Palutena, being able to lock onto 3 people, and then shooting a laser that doesn't launch, but will hold the opponent and like do continuous damage like an electric attack. They could also go for the homing torpedo, the double cyclone, which could act like one of Mega Man's custom moves, where he shoots a bomb that goes straight up, or not really it goes straight up, but it arcs upward. Or they could even go with the Nova Strike, which is one of his Giga attacks from Mega Man X4, which turns into a dashing charge attack. It can have a bit of build-up like Little Mac's Jolt Haymaker, but it goes straight instead of arcing back down to the ground. And can also be used as another form of recovery, should it be considered. And then as for a final smash, he can, well, he has his options. Personally, I wouldn't, I'd actually prefer that he keeps Mega Man's final smash, should he just replace Mega Man entirely. But, otherwise, I'd give him the ability to use his ultimate armor, and either give him, like, certain attacks like they did in, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, or Project Cross Zone, where he has several different variations of utilizing his ultimate armor, where it mainly is just another type of Nova Strike, but the ability to kind of just like fly around and slam the opponent into the ground or something like that. Be pretty flashy if they tried something like that. At number 10, this character probably next to none of you know, but if you played the game I just mentioned, Project Cross Zone, you know who this character is. But he's the main character of Namco Cross Capcom, and the main character of the sequel, Project Cross Zone 2. His name is Reiji Arisu. And I have a bit to talk about with him. First off, this character is not shy to being in crossovers. He's crossed over with a lot of characters from a lot of different franchises. And from what I heard recently, there have been reports that Namco is actually working on this other Smash Brothers game. So if that is true, then there is that possibility that they could bring him in. I mean, the fact that they had 2 Project Cross Zone games only goes to show that there is some popularity with the series, this crossover series. And if he doesn't make it as a character, I think an assist trophy would be pretty good too. To me, this would be the obscurity of how Takamaru is, like that kind of level of obscurity. But maybe not that obscure because, like I said, he's had 2 games released in the US. Well, I didn't say that before, but yeah, he's had 2 games released in the US, and as far as I'm aware of, Namco Cross Capcom is a PlayStation 2 Japan only game. I could be wrong, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there. Now, in terms of what this character can do, according to some information I found just from the game that I wasn't able to cover, Namco Cross Capcom, I mean, this is just like a brief little bio I got from a wiki or something. But he's been trained in the art of this sword style called Gogyo sword drawing, which is the art of quick drawing sword, like sword drawing and then sheathing it immediately. And I believe it's a reference to a real sword style where it's like quick draw, but it has another name. It's like Ayajutsu. Again, feel free to correct me if anything I'm saying is wrong. But he wields 3 different katanas called Karin, Chirai, and Soren. Forgive me if I butcher any of those names. And each sword is imbued with the element of fire, lightning, and ice respectively. He also wields 2 firearms, Hollywood, a shotgun, I think a sawed-off shotgun to be specific, and Gold, a Magnum. The shotgun can be a forward special where it's a little slow on startup, but it covers the front of Reiji and has decent launching. The Magnum can be a full screen projectile, but no rapid shots, although I think he shoots the gun rapidly in the games. For recovery, he can summon an ice tower, or rather his partner Xiaomu can summon an ice tower. For those of you unaware, he has a partner named Xiaomu who is a werefox, and she is always partnered up with him. I was thinking of making this like a pair-up character, kind of like how people like to think that Rex and Pyra could be a pair-up character, but these two always fight together, and for a lot of the flashy stuff that they do, I don't think it would transition well. So I just put Reiji over Xiaomu. But for the final smash, they could both team up where Xiaomu puts the opponent in a force field, or the opponents, because she can lock several people into her force field. And then they both, or at least Reiji, starts going ballistic with all his weapons and attacks, using up as much as he can before they both finish off the opponent with a cross slash. And then the characters getting launched in an explosion upon sheathing their weapons. That's my take on it. And I'm pretty sure no one even thought of putting Reiji on their list or even considering him. But I can understand that if no one's played Project Crosstone. It's a fun game. Kind of tedious though. But it's fun. I'd at least give it a look. It has great music too. At number 9, I have Hades from Kid Icarus Uprising. Now, in terms of Kid Icarus Uprising characters, Pit and Palutena are an easy, or just easy choices in my opinion. Dark Pit was an interesting choice, and they dropped the ball on him because, as I stated in part 3 of my returning veterans videos, there's just so much missed potential in Kid Icarus Uprising, and Dark Pit can easily fill that void by representing some of the weapons that were not represented in Smash Brothers. And I'm not even counting representation in the form of the items like the Ore Club, or just clubs in general, or the Drill Arm. I mean, because all they have are arms, bows, and orbitars represented in terms of the moveset. Anything else, mainly from Palutena, is a power. I think that also goes for that Eye Sentry cannon too, but I digress. When it comes to other Kid Icarus Uprising representation, a lot of people like to consider Vaati as a potential playable character, and I can understand why. She is lovable because of her color commentary with Palutena during the guidance, and, well, she's your other partner of sorts when Palutena becomes out of commission, and even afterwards. Hell, when you first meet up with her, she has her own little banter. And a lot of people like her as a character, but the character I enjoy in Kid Icarus Uprising, my favorite character, is Hades. And I mean, he joins in the banner just like Vaati does, although Vaati actually does help you, and Hades is the final boss. Some people also wanted Medusa in over Hades, I guess because, one, she was the main antagonist in the first Kid Icarus game, and she's like the main antagonist for the first half of Uprising, while Hades is pretty much the main antagonist for the rest of the game. I don't know, it's just that I love Hades, and I would love to see him start whooping people's asses in this game. Not to mention, I would love to hear more of his commentary, and I think it's Zelda Universe who does this, but they have Hades' misguided character interactions, and I'd love to see some form of that come into the next Smash Brothers, should they decide to do something like that. Now, in terms of a moveset, they can go several ways with this. I'm going to go with the moveset that they probably shouldn't go with, but could also make sense, giving him Ganondorf's old moveset. Because, as I mentioned in the returning veterans for the Zelda characters, I think that Ganondorf should be represented more based on Hyrule Warriors. So he would have a completely redesigned moveset. And I was thinking of including Black Shadow in here as an honorable mention at the very least. And he could potentially be that pseudo Captain Falcon and take over Ganondorf's old moveset. But I never played an F-Zero game, so I don't know anything about Black Shadow. I'm not putting characters on here that I don't know, minus Dark Samus. I'm putting on characters that I want, because again, I do want Dark Samus, because villain, Metroid representation, and from what I have seen of her, before I even researched her, I did like what I saw. But I digress. So yeah, if they decide to scrap Ganondorf's old moveset and they want to like give it to someone, I know that kind of contradicts, I just said scrapped. They could give it to Hades, because some of his moves in the final battle in Kid Icarus Uprising do seem like they would transition over as Ganondorf's old moveset. Like, he does a dive kick during the final battle, which can be similar to Ganondorf's Wizard Foot in some way. He could utilize his cloak as a shield from like attacks and projectiles, and could even fire projectiles after like flopping the cloak away from him. This could actually be similar to a character from Castlevania, I believe Dracula, because what he liked to do is reveal his cape and summon fireballs. Hades can do something in similar fashion. I'm not saying to do it, but he can do it. One of the other things about Hades is that, unlike Ganondorf, he has tons of different projectiles. Lasers, energy shots. He even has like these weird mirror panels that he can fire at you. They don't reflect, but, you know, it's kind of like Palutena's reflectability, only it hurts you and it doesn't reflect. And it actually goes after you. It doesn't just push itself slightly in front of you. Like I said, he has dive kicks. He can actually run pretty fast, although he was a giant in the final fight. He can run. He can fly. He can turn himself into a twister. He has tons of things he can work with in terms of a moveset. But, well, let's see. Can he fly? I believe he can fly, but he has like a hyper jump too, which keeps him in the air for a long time. Or at the very least, can take him from the underworld all the way up to the surface. So, I mean, they can make a lot with his moveset. He can easily be a really great powerhouse with good projectiles and just some, like, devastating power to him. For a final smash, he could like grow into the background and then fire the lasers that he does during the final phase in Uprising's last boss fight, where he could have two lasers going from the top left to the bottom right, and you can control them with the sticks. Meanwhile, the head shoots a third laser that automatically locks onto a random character. Or whatever his ultimate attack was going to be before Medusa got in the way of him using it. I was thinking that could be his final smash as well. I don't know how devastating it is because we never got to see it, but it's something. It's a potential something. I don't know why I wrote that. Anyways, moving on to number 8. As I mentioned before in the last video, I believe that Decidueye is going to make it as the next Pokemon representative newcomer. But for the character I would like them to represent, well, it would actually be a ghost type. Not a ghost grass type, just a pure ghost type. But I'm also trying to go into a bit more of a possibility type of thing. And what a lot of people want is a grass type. And if I had to pick a grass type, I probably would pick Tangela, but I can't think of a good moveset for him. So I picked the next best one that I could think of, Sceptile. A lot of people have been asking for Sceptile too, but I wouldn't mind Sceptile. I think it's probably... When it comes to the Hoenn stars, I don't know which one's my favorite, to be honest, because I love all of them. Sceptile's incredibly fast, has some good grass-type moves. Blaziken's fast, is the first of the fire-fighting starters. And then Swampert has good coverage in ground and water, being immune to electric attacks. I mean, you know. But I'm picking Skeptile mainly because of how his moveset worked in Pokken Tournament. So I'm gonna go on record in saying that I really don't like Pokken Tournament. I've actually been replaying it lately, though, trying to get back into the swing of things. And it's just really difficult. But coming up with a moveset, I would say that Leaf Storm could be a neutral special or a command grab. Yeah, neutral special command grab, because that's what Leaf Storm is in Pokken. It's basically an aerial command grab, but I was thinking of it being both an aerial and a regular one, where he could grab the opponent and then slam them into like a storm of leaves or something like that, or like grab them to spin while leaves are just storming around them, and then slam them to the ground and then launch them. That's just for the neutral. If not the command grab, then they can go for Bullet Seed, just like Ivysaur had. The only difference being is that it would actually fire in front of Skeptile, as opposed to Ivysaur where it shot above him, which I never understood why, but it is what it is. For a forward special, I was thinking of Leech Seed, where he would lay down a seed in front of him that ensnares foes that land on the seed and could hold them in place for a brief moment. The effect can remain longer the more damage they have, but to break out is fairly simple, as to not make it a cheap move. I mean, it could also drain the foe's health. Like, thinking about it, it could drain, like, just, like, barely a small amount of percentage. I was thinking of this, more in the lines of when they're damaged more, because it would hold them longer. But it's mainly just a tool to incapacitate or to immobilize enemies. And it can be laid down anywhere. The only limitation is that you can only launch or lay down one Leech Seed at a time. It would be pretty interesting. It would make him a very tactical fighter. Another one could be Giga Drain, where he can launch a green beam that goes across the ground at a set distance and then drains the opponent's health from there. Basically a long-range Nosferatu, but doesn't have any special properties if it was done from behind, you know. For a down special, I was thinking of Detect, because Skeptile can learn Detect and it can be used as a counter. For a recovery, though, they could try Leaf Tornado, where he could just spin around and summon leaves under him or around him at a very fast speed, to the point where he can levitate his body up and gain that extra height. Kind of like a Luigi Tornado or a Dr. Mario Tornado or whatever. His tilts can be inspired by jabs and other strings from Pokken, and then smash attacks can be leaf blades, a little bit similar to how Greninja uses the water blades for his smash attacks. For a final smash, I was thinking of one of two things. Either his burst attack from Pokken, which results in a Mega Evolution. I think it's called Forest Flash. And then all you need to do is just really see the cinematic from there. He Mega Evolves and then dashes across the screen with a giant leaf blade. Anybody attacked in it would then get ensnared by all these roots, and then just, I don't know what happens after that, but it could result in some sort of launching, I guess. Or just give him a regular Mega Evolution where, you know, he's unflinchable, his attacks do more damage, longer leaf blades, and the ability to shoot out a rocket projectile from his tail, because some people might not know this, but Mega Skeptile's tail is actually a rocket projectile that he can shoot. So that would actually be a pretty interesting attack. He can shoot it like a missile, it explodes into a leafy death explosion or something. You know. A little bit how Charizard X has set moves for him. This could be the same case. But at any rate, at number 7, this is where it starts getting much more personal. I mean, it was already pretty personal, but I think this kind of helps solidify how personal it is, because this character is not a main character. It's actually a pretty, well, not a pretty minor character, but is a minor character nonetheless. Tharja from Fire Emblem Awakening. This character has no context to be in this game and is probably the least likely to make it in. Phoenix Wright and Ridley have a better chance of making it in this game in any shape or form than Tharja does. Because for those of you who don't know, Tharja from Fire Emblem was originally supposed to be a trophy in the 3DS Smash Bros., and at the last minute they cut her trophy out of the game because I believe she was too what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I'm just gonna say she was too sexy, I guess. I mean, you can look up any of her art. I'm not talking about fan art. Just look up any of her regular art, and you'll see that she is not a very covered character. If she was to make it in this game, she would most likely be wearing her cape a lot. So, there's that. But one other reason why I would like her to be in the game is because, unlike Robin, she would be a full mage. She wouldn't have any sword or any other type of weapon. She would just have her tomes. That being said, the way that they're going with Fire Emblem these days, or at the very least with the last Fire Emblem games, even with the spin-offs, tomes have been like permanent items, or rather they don't have a durability, and why should they? But she could have just a full magic-based moveset, a little bit like Zelda, but more competent. She could like have small dark magic bolts for close quarter attacks, but with just faster movements. She could have various different tomes for specials, like Robin, but with no limit, as I've stated before. She could also have like small orb projectiles or dark magic for tilts and smash attacks. I don't know about the dark magic, but the orbs I'm getting based off of Fire Emblem Warriors, where Robin and Tharja utilize like these magical orbs as standard attacks. She'd basically be a bit like Mewtwo in the way that she's a glass cannon. She can deal a lot of damage, but she can't take that much abuse. And then for a final smash, I was thinking of her special attack from Warriors, where like she summons all these like shadowy hands of dark magic and like smashes the area, or like traps opponents in a field, like a little dark field, and then the hand starts smashing before the last one just launching up and launching the opponents away. I was thinking on that, but I also understand if that's a little too similar to Bayonetta's up smash. So the only other one I got is using the tome Grima's Truth, which would unleash a powerful dark magic explosion with a dragon silhouette. Because that's how it is in Awakening. So just like let her use it for this one attack, because, you know, it wouldn't be anything too flashy like Robin's or Ike's Final Smash. but I mean, it would be just as deadly, I could say that much. It would have a great range to it too, considering it's an explosion. I don't really have too much to work with Tharja because, like I said, she is a pretty minor character in the grand scheme of Fire Emblem characters. Because the ones that get represented are usually lords. And I understand Azura has that problem too, but at least Azura is a main character. Tharja is not. She is a popular character for reasons, but I like her because I'm a crazy fuck that likes that obsessive dark chick. Then again, my tastes vary a lot. Anyways, moving on to number 6. A lot of people, when it comes to another Kirby rep, always suggest putting in Waddle Dee, or Bandana D, I mean. And this character that I put, I can understand a lot of people wouldn't want him in because he would be too similar to another character we have in. But I'm gonna say that if I had to pick another Kirby representative, it would be a more traditional villain because you never really pair up with this character. And that's Galactica Knight from the Kirby series. Now, I understand that he is incredibly similar to Meta Knight, if not to a T, but he does have some moves that differentiate him from Meta Knight. For one thing, I think he can utilize a spin attack that can actually be moved around on the ground. It would act a little bit like Toon Link's in that it's a multiple hit, but it launches on the last hit. That could be his neutral special. He can have a flurry thrust where he just like keeps jabbing his lance repeatedly for his forward special. If not, he can utilize shield beams because he does use a shield. Or sword beams, because he can summon those too. Either a horizontal air dash or the shuttle loop, just like Meta Knight for a recovery. I would give him the ability to fly, but he would already have 6 jumps most likely, so don't need to give him that much more. He could have a down thrust attack, like a down thrust to a ground shockwave for his down special, or just a stab dash or something. I know that there's like a lance thrust attack in the Kirby games, like for the spear or for Meta Knight's up attack. That could be like a tilt. Would also have a bit of a same animation for from Marth, but you know. I mean, he can also utilize this like a 3-hit tilt attack for like a forward tilt, where he does 3 consecutive strikes. Again, it's pretty similar to his boss fight in Planet Robobot, and I think Dark Meta Knight utilizes the same move in Triple Deluxe. And then for a final smash, I have 2 suggestions. One can be a transformation into Morpho Knight from Star Allies, or he could have a barrage of different attacks where he can summon a beam that goes 360 degrees, summon sword beams that rain from the sky. He can launch a tornado that covers half of the stage, and even rip open the dimension and summon a beam from out of nowhere. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't elaborated too much on his moveset, because a lot of his moves are very dangerous, per se. He has a lot of moves that are like screen nukes in a sense. So it's not like I can transfer all of them to a reasonable move set. So I was thinking of just combining them all into a final smash. At any rate, we're reaching into the top 5 now. So at number 5, I have Zero from the Mega Man X slash Mega Man Zero series. So a lot of people also want Zero in Smash Brothers, and when people discuss Zero, they usually think of the Zero from Mega Man X. However, there is another iteration of Zero that has mainly been on just purely Nintendo. I think he made an appearance in a game that on the PlayStation 2 in his Mega Man Zero form. I could be wrong though. But I was thinking that if they had to choose a design, they can go with either one. In terms of a moveset, I'd give him the Z-Buster as a neutral special, which can be charged, obviously, like Mega Man X's, just not with the same utility. It's just a chargeable move. But it could also increase like powers of his other moves and abilities, a little bit like how they did him in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite with some of his special attacks. For his recovery, it would be the Ryujin, which is a flame uppercut with a sword or saber, whichever you prefer. It would be like Roy's also, but with more vertical height. I was thinking that if you had the Z-Buster charged and it does power up all these moves, it could also become an electric elemental. It would be faster, it would have more height, and in X5 he does have an electric uppercut, and it usually rains down like these little electric sparks, so it could damage opponents that are below him too, or like try to get below him. For a forward special, I was thinking of the Hadangeki, which is a saber slash, a little bit like Cloud's projectile attack. But if the Z-Buster is charged, then it would have an electrical property that would paralyze the foes, a little bit like Samus's or Zero Suit Samus's Paralyzer or Corrin's Dragon Shot. He could have a ground pound punch that releases rocks and energy wave projectiles. And if you charge it, he could have like pillars of light surround him. His 3-hit jab can be his standard attack combo with the last hit launching foes. He can also have a neutral air attack, which is his rolling slash ability, with a multiple hit property while rotating and then launching, we're having a launching pop at the end. A little bit like the screw attack that Samus uses, just not as deadly. And then for final smashes, I was thinking his level 3 from Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Genmu Zero, where he jumps into the air and he launches a large saber slash projectile that goes full screen, would have devastating launch and attack power, a little bit like Ganon's final smash. Or they could go with the Rakoha, which is one of his level 1 hyper combos. But when utilizing it, it would fire beams from the sky that would come down pretty fast and do some decent damage and launch. Of course, the con is that they're narrow, so they're a little hard to hit their mark. But they would be coming down at random and much faster. So think of it like a smaller but faster version of PK Starstorm from Brawl, Lucas, or Ness. Moving on to number 4, though, I have Midna from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. When it comes to Zelda characters, a lot of people also want Impa in, or one of the various villains, like mainly Girahim or someone else, I guess, Zant. But Midna is one that I see getting thrown around here and there, and honestly, if there was any character that was most likely to make it in, that's not one of the main trio or any type of incarnation of them, I think Midna would have the best shot. And I'm not just saying that because she has an assist trophy. The way that I would see her is that she wouldn't ride the wolf, but she would levitate, because that's what she normally does. But she would be able to summon Twilight Wolves, a little bit like in Hyrule Warriors. She could have an energy ball attack for like a neutral special, but it would always be shot down to the ground. It would never be shot like across the screen. The real meat of the attack would be from the explosion it creates. So I guess a bit like a Falcon Punch. I'm not sure, but for a down special, it could be a command hair grab where she utilizes the locks of hair and just grabs and tosses an opponent. It could be a little hard to get because you'd have to be a little close, or maybe not, but it would always like just throw the opponent and have good launching, just like her assist trophy. For a forward special, she could have she could summon a Twilight Wolf and have that like tackle the opponent, or like toss it, kind of like in one of her special attacks with Hyrule Warriors. She actually tosses a wolf like a frisbee. At least that's how I remember it. I may have to play the game again. And then for a recovery, I was thinking that she could summon a wolf and then do like a zip attack where she a little bit how she does it in Twilight Princess, where she goes to a certain point and then Wolfling jumps and lunges at her. But I was thinking of her riding onto the wolf and then it basically carrying her in a similar fashion to how Pikachu uses Quick Attack or Greninja uses Hydro Pump, in it like jumping on a certain distance and then being able to do another jump, but then afterwards just completely losing momentum. And then for a final smash, this one I had a few ideas, but I think the one that would probably benefit her the most would actually be utilizing the full extent of the Fuse Shadows and transforming into that weird spider thing that she transforms into. And then using the spear to create like this giant explosion that launches everybody away. Okay, time for the last three. And that number 3 is my last third-party character. Now, when it comes to Square Enix, a lot of people either want Cloud back or want somebody like Sora to represent Cloud's spot, basically. For me, I was thinking of a series that doesn't really get represented that much either, although I guess it could coincide with Final Fantasy, but has actually been doing pretty good on the 3DS. It's one of my favorite RPGs lately, because it goes to a traditional style. At least how I see traditional. Because my first and only Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy IV. But these games have kind of revitalized that form of RPG. I mean, if there's any more that are like it in like recent days, please let me know, because I can be ignorant. But the series that I'm thinking that can be represented, that I believe Square Enix is, it is Square Enix that has made this game. Bravely Default. Bravely Default and Bravely Second, I think, should have some representation. I mean, they would represent the 3DS with both of their games. As for who to represent, like the placeholder, I was thinking of either Tiz, which is one of the main characters from the first and second games, or Magnolia Arch from Bravely Second. Although, thinking about it now, technically any of the heroes that you get or play as in Bravely Default and Bravely Second could be a placeholder for this spot because there's no real difference that I'm aware of that these characters have. So this spot can go to Tiz, Edea, Agnes, Ringabel, Magnolia Arch, and you. So that's like 7 characters right there if they want to use alternate costumes. As for a moveset, well, they have a lot to work with. So I'm just gonna name the special that can occupy, or the skill that can occupy this special. I can't talk. I've been going at it and my room's getting hotter. In terms of like standards and tilts and stuff, they can utilize Fist, but can also swap around with different weapons for other attacks. And if needed, it can be like the Charioteer class, where they're able to wield multiple weapons past the dual wield. So they can wield like 3 or 4 weapons if they need an excuse to like be wielding axes, lances, daggers, bows, and all that stuff, swords, etc. Okay, so for neutral specials, they could use the Slayer attacks from the Ranger job, dark magic spells from like the Black Mage, Hawkeye rifle skills, so rifle attacks, or monster skills from the Vampire job. For forward special, they can use different types of monk martial arts or Dark Knight dark arts, more damage for more power, kind of like Lucario, but only to this specific move. Or they can use the pirate debuff skills. For recovery, I was thinking of either arrow spells, which are basically wind spells, so they would give them like an extra boost, or the Valkyrie jump, which makes them jump so high they go off screen. For down special, I was thinking of like white magic healing, which would be the first character that could utilize a special to heal and not drain a target of their own health, or, you know, spawning an item that can heal them. It would just be like instant healing, but it wouldn't be that much. Or it can only be utilized so many times. The Astrologian job's buffing skills, where it can buff defenses, attacks, speed, etc. It could also try Performer jobs buffs, or they can do like time magic, where it could be using haste for a speed boost, kind of like Palutena's speed buff attack. I don't remember what it's called. Lightweight. That's it, lightweight. Although with haste, I don't think there's a downside. They could also try Berserk, but I don't know about that one. With the time magic, they could also use a counter that could be similar to Witch Time, or any of the Swordmaster counters. And then as for final smashes, I have like two choices. The first one can be a special move that can target at least 4 characters at once. There's so many different special moves, so I'm not going to name which one in particular. Hell, it can even be a combination. But depending on the character that gets put in, let's say the character is put in, I was thinking they could have used their special, and then the music plays for their theme. And in Bravely Default and Bravely Second, when you use a special move, their theme starts playing, and as long as the theme is going on, or if one of the other characters' themes start playing, the buffs that they use for that special move remain. So the way that this would work is that, let's say I was using Tiz and I used a special move that created this explosion. It would also give me like a boost to defense or attack boost or a speed boost or whatever, or all of them, critical hit boost. The boost would last until the song ends, or if my character got KO'd afterwards, or if the whole match ended. So although I'd have this boost, after the attack, it would be like the match is going on normal without the final smash activated, but my character would have a buff. So the only way to get rid of it would be to KO my character, be KO'd yourself, or wait about a minute and 30 seconds for their theme song to end, because that's how long the themes usually are. The other final smash I was thinking of is the ability to summon, because there are summons in the game, although they're very weird compared to something like Final Fantasy VII's. But if there was a summon that they could use, I would say it would be the Susanoo summon, because that's, I believe it's the best summon in the game, but it also doesn't have a specific element to it either. I think it'd probably be the most fitting out of all of them. At number 2, we need more Star Fox characters. And Wolf really needs to make a return, but that's not who I'm talking about. At number 2, the character I want to return for not to return, but to debut in Smash Brothers for Star Fox, Crystal from Star Fox Adventures. Now, I understand if they don't want to use the Crystal the Adventures version of Crystal, because her outfit is very revealing. So let's say they use Assault Crystal, bodysuit and all that shit. So that part's solved, but in terms of a moveset, I think she has potential, and a lot of people already know this. It's the staff, and it's various skills, but 1, female representation, number 2, Star Fox representation, and number 3, why the hell hasn't this character been in Smash Brothers already? That's not a reason, but you know. Anyways, in terms of a moveset, her staff can shoot laser blast, or as the game calls it, fire blast, even though they don't really have any fire nature to them. It's an energy blast that acts a bit like a laser or just a bullet projectile that can be used as a standard special. For the recovery, it can be the rocket boost, which normally she needs a certain tile in order to charge up her staff and then shoot up like a rocket, but since when does Smash go with specifics it need for certain things to work? For a forward special, it can be an ice blast, where she lets out this ice breath of sorts from her staff and freezes opponents. It could work in the similar way that the Ice Climber's down special worked, but with longer range. Possibly even with the ability to walk around while doing it, but at the cost of having less range when holding it. So it'd be a bit like Fire Breath, only with ice. For the down special, I was thinking of 1 of 2 things. Either 1 being the ground quake ability that Fox is able to use in stunning certain dinosaurs and enemies, and could work in a similar fashion in this game, but if anybody's under her while she utilizes the ground quake, they'll get smashed into the stage, much like a meteor attack. That being said, it's ill-advised to use it off of the edge. Or a telepathic counter, a little bit like Shulk's, because Crystal is a telepath. She can communicate with her mind and all that stuff. So it wouldn't be far-fetched to have a counter of sorts in that regard. She'd also be one of the only other staff units next to Palutena. So, I mean, diversity all around. For a final smash, I was thinking of either the R-Wing, kind of like how I suggested that with Falco, or like a dinosaur assist where she's able to summon Tricky from Star Fox Adventures and can ride on his back, can ram into enemies, breathe fire because he can breathe fire, and just basically cover the ground because after all, Tricky is an Earthwalker. Now for people who like to stay up into the sky, we can have a Cloud Runner occupy the sky, just like zooming across the screen back and forth, hitting anybody that's in the air and shooting like blue fireballs as well. That's what I was thinking anyways. With the R-Wing, it's just like I said with Falco, it would like just kind of descend a bit. She could fire lasers, smart bombs, and like just barrel roll and zoom past the screen to wipe opponents, off the stage. Number 1. The only people that would predict this one are people that actually know me. Vaati from The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap. I was about to say Breath of the Wild. This is probably my favorite Zelda villain, if not Zelda character. I mean, probably not Zelda character, but my favorite Zelda villain. And there's not really much of a reason as to why other than design. But the other thing is that he is the second most recurring Zelda villain in the series. Next to Ganondorf, or Ganon, whichever. I count Ganon and Ganondorf the same character. I mean, I could even count Demise in a similar fashion, but it's called Demise, not Ganon. Anyways, Vaati has always been my number 1 choice to be put in Smash Brothers. He's somewhat of an obscure character, but a lot of people actually want him in the game. He would represent the handheld series in a sense, because 2 out of 3 of his games he has been on a handheld, the Game Boy Advance mainly. But he didn't make his more refined debut until Minish Cap, where he actually had more of a human form. But that's beside the point. The point is that this would be a mage character. Another character that's more experienced in magic, but he also is supposedly known for his swordsmanship. That being said, you never see him with a sword. But he did win a sword competition. But he has like a whole bunch of different various magical attacks, from being able to shoot lightning, control the wind in some degree, and even summoning fire and dark magic, I guess. Mainly electricity, but I have seen him do fire in various situations. If there's one thing that Vaati is known for most in terms of anything, aside from his look as a human or Hylian, and his giant monstrous bat eye transformation, or Vaati's Wrath if you prefer, it's his ability to use curses, or one particular curse, which I would suggest be his neutral special should he make it in the game. Now, the way that this would work is that it would be a new status condition that Smash Brothers hasn't been introduced to, which is petrification. The character that's hit with the curse would turn into stone, would be immobilized, but would have to like shake the control stick or like jam the buttons in order to break free. A little bit like paralysis. Only the main difference is that you are immobilized in the very spot that you're petrified. and that means that you can't be launched at all. So another way of thinking about it is if you were to be buried, like in Melee, where no matter how strong of an attack you did, you never got launched, but you would be turned to stone. Now, if you were to be caught with this attack, it would be like a black sphere charged projectile. If you were to be shot with this while in the air, let's say off of the stage, and you become petrified, you would drop, literally, no pun intended, like a rock down into the pit. So the downside to this would be its slow startup when launching it, and its speed in general would... I'd say the speed should be pretty fast as it goes out more, but it would be easily telegraphed is what I'm trying to say. The other thing is that the curse wouldn't take effect unless it's fully charged, so you can't have really much of any effect if you were to do a half charge or a very minor charge. It would either do nothing or be the equivalent to Samus's charge beam if you didn't charge it at all. For a forward smash, I had two ideas. One being an electric sphere, where he can shoot out an electrical projectile that would have a bit of the similar properties of Arc Thunder like Robin does, but not as much of a killing capability. If not that, then a portal attack, which would mimic one of his moves based on his other form, Vaati's Wrath, where he's able to summon a portal and launch his arm through it, and then start swinging his arm around to attack from a distance. But because he's in human form, it would just be the equivalent of a punch, a long-range punch. For a down special, one of his other abilities when in his Vaati Reborn form is the ability to summon these little eyeballs that have bat wings, which can also be clouded in dark magic to shield from regular attacks. You would have to blow them off in order to make the eyes vulnerable. But these eye satellites can not only be an effective shield, a little bit like Mega Man's Leaf Shield, although they are perishable, so it's not like they're all invincible, but what they could also be used for is a projectile, because if you leave these bat satellites out for too long, or if you don't destroy them soon enough, they end up firing laser beams of dark magic, and this can easily be used as a projectile of sorts if utilized correctly. I mean, they can be destroyed easily, but by pressing down, pressing the prompt for down special again, you could have them shoot the lasers, but as soon as they shoot the lasers, they would immediately disappear. That way you can't spam the technique. And then for recovery, I was thinking of either a tornado elevation, where you can summon a tornado under his feet and rise up higher. Think of it like villagers' balloons or a jump glide, only that's slowly elevating you. Or like Beat the Bird as one of Mega Man's customs. Or a generic teleport, because Vaati can teleport. And then as for a final smash, I was thinking the transformation I've been mentioning throughout this whole part of discussing Vaati's moves. His Vaati's Wrath form, which is the giant eyeball. He could transform into this form. He would be able to summon portals for his claws to appear on the stage, and then he could swing them a full 360 degrees for anybody nearby, launching them away. Fire multiple electrical spheres or launch foes after capturing them in a tornado of sorts, because in Four Swords Adventures, one of his main tactics was to fly around the stage and summon a tornado. And if any of your links are caught in it, they take, I think, at least a heart of damage or half a heart. He does pretty decent damage. The way to defeat him is to throw a bomb in there, but for Smash Brothers, he could easily elevate to the top of the screen and then have a tornado just come all the way down to the stage, and then he can just move to the left or the right and suck up anybody that's below him. And then once they start rotating in the tornado, at the very top they can get launched incredibly far off screen. Because just like water, wind has its own push effect. Just look at the gust bellows. But that's my list of who I want, who I personally want in Smash Brothers. I don't expect a lot of people to agree with it, but like I said, this is my personal list of wants. Not every choice has to make sense, and nor do my ideas on a moveset have to be the end-all be-all result of them. That's just my suggestions. If you have a character you want in Smash, leave a comment below and tell me. And hell, tell me what kind of moveset you'd give them. I am so sorry this episode is a lot longer than the others. It might be a little shorter when I edit it, but I don't think it'll be the case. But these videos have been pretty fun to make. I know I'm not the best when it comes to discussion videos and just trying to get my point across, and nor are they the most entertaining because I'm just showing replays of old Smash fights and battles and all that stuff. I don't really have any editing software at the moment, so hopefully if I decide to do these again, I can make them more appealing. Being able to cut, edit, and all that stuff. Get my point across a lot better than I have been here. If you guys have actually been enjoying my opinions on these, or not, but like to, see my 2 cents on things, go ahead and leave a comment and tell me what you think. Should I just stick with Let's Playing, or should I go ahead and continue more discussions? And if you like to hear more discussions on video games, give me some topics as to talk about. Just nothing political and nothing stupid. Also, I mainly cover PlayStation and Nintendo, so if it's anything with Xbox, it's a little iffy there. I mean, I can discuss some things with Xbox, but not much. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If there's anything else you want to talk about with Smash Brothers, go ahead and leave a comment below or comment on my Twitter. Go ahead and follow me there. If you want random tidbits or to stay up to date with my schedule for uploading. And, yeah. If you're only here for the Smash content, this is pretty much where it ends. But for those who actually watch the Let's Plays, stick around because I have one little update in regards to the uploads. Alright, so if you're listening to this, either you're too lazy to get off of the video, want to hear what I have to say, or actually care about how the Let's Plays are going to be going. So once this is uploaded, my plan for uploading the Let's Plays that I've been planning on will commence the day after. So if I have the editing and timing right, this should be uploaded on Sunday, June 3rd? Yes, I believe Sunday, June 3rd. So on June 4th and onward, I will be uploading 1 to 2 videos a day, depending on the series, for about another 30 plus days. Maybe even more, depending on if I'm able to get the other Let's Plays going in the meantime. Again, I am terribly sorry that I haven't been able to keep up to date with the Let's Plays, but they're going to be back in full force right after this video. But I hope you've enjoyed the discussion videos. Like I said, if you want to hear more of these discussion videos from me, go ahead and leave a comment below. If you don't, go ahead and leave a comment. It don't matter to me. but I wouldn't mind doing this again, but I also really just want to get back into Let's Playing. So I appreciate all those who've been patient, and I'll begin doing the Let's Play soon. E3's around the corner, so who knows? Maybe my list of wants will actually be heard. Maybe my predictions on who I think will make it will come true. Maybe not. As for a reaction to it, I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna do reaction videos, but we'll see. If you want me to do a follow-up to E3 regarding Smash Brothers, I can do that. Hell, I can do my own E3 discussion video if I wanted to. That'd be pretty nice, but the Let's Plays come first. But I could always squeeze it in between. Anyways, I've been your host, Purple, and I thank you for putting up with my shit opinions, sort of. I hope to get better at this, but I'll see you guys next time.